Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Sammy and I think we're going to start every video like this from now on. What do you think? Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to my adventure channel. I'm Lucy and today I'm really going to share my story. How did I become an adventurer? Because make no mistake, I never grew up thinking that being an adventurer was a real title, a job title. I kind of question it now myself. Let's go back to the beginning. When I was a kid, I don't know about you, but I used to love climbing trees. When you're a kid, you really don't care about the consequences. You just do things for the hell of it. Like when you're climbing trees. Remember when you used to climb trees? Climb up to the top as far as you could and then you get up to the top and think, oh my God, I have no idea how I'm going to get down. You don't think of that at the time. You just do it because you want to. And then you get to a teenage years. I fell into the trap. I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to be like everyone else because I wasn't a popular kid at all. I was labelled shy and quiet all the time. But in my eyes, I wasn't shy or quiet. I just had nothing I wanted to say to people who labelled me that. And don't label kids that. What were you labelled? Some kids are labelled naughty, cheeky, bossy. If you label kids that, then surely they're going to become that, in my opinion. And I realised I was starting to lose my mojo. I wasn't doing the things that just made me happy like I used to do as a kid. And I got lucky because my dad was looking online one day and he realised that up in the northwest of Scotland, where he used to go for like holidays as a kid, there was still an adventure school that he had heard about and knew about, the Ridgeway Adventure School. And they were taking kids for 2-week adventures, survival courses up in Scotland. Now, if I say 2 weeks in Scotland, what do you think the weather was like? No, you're wrong. Like, it wasn't raining, it wasn't cold, there wasn't midges everywhere. We had bright sunshine for the entire time. It was absolutely insane. Maybe if it'd been different weather, then maybe my whole career path would have been different. I hate midges. They follow you around. Oh, like everywhere you move. I was sent home one day at primary school. Thought I had chicken pox. I was like 5 or something. I digress. I went on this Scottish adventure 2-week trip. And I found my place. You know, for the first time, I was the leader of the pack. I was confident. I was good at something. I was actually good at sports and the mountain goat. I'd never been good at team sports or anything like that. Felt great. And it was the first time I heard the word expedition used in context for someone like me. I always thought expedition was for, Shackleton's days. I didn't know you could have modern day expeditions. It wasn't like I knew people in the exploration world or military or anything like that. Didn't have any connections of that world at all. I was doing these mini expeditions and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the word. I fell in love with the idea of the expeditions. And it was after that I really became addicted to everything that Bear Grylls was up to. And it wasn't necessarily him, it was the places he was going. I loved his books that he was writing, the early books. First TV show, I think it was at the time. I was watching these and I just wanted to do what he was doing, going to these places. It opened my eyes of how vast the world is and how incredible it is. All I could think of is I want to do expeditions all over the world. But how can I do that? And so I went on the hunt for this word expedition. How could I be a part of real expedition? There was an advert in the paper a couple years later, and this advert was from the British Schools Exploration Society, now called British Exploring Society. It was asking for 18 to 25-year-olds, 10 of them, to take part in this scientific Arctic expedition to Svalbard, about 600 miles from the North Pole, I think. And this was back when they did these extreme expeditions. They've only done a handful of them, I think. And I had to go through the interview process, I had to go through the training, and then I had to learn how to fundraise. Now, fundraising deserves, and it will have, whole other video for itself. Like, fundraising is a massive part of being an adventurer, of doing expeditions. There's no getting away with it. Even though I make sure I go on expeditions that don't cost like an arm and a leg, still a big part of it. It is doable. I'm still learning. It's not like I've come from a multi-millionaire background. I'm not a trust fund kid. Alas, don't have lots of money in my pocket. Every time it's a struggle. But it's doable, so don't let that put you off. And off I went when I was 18 years old on this Arctic expedition. And you know what? It was everything I could have hoped for and more. It truly was an incredible time. I found my feet, I was pushing myself, I just felt alive in the elements and just loved the way you could control things if you knew what you were doing. And then I get back from this expedition and everyone, absolutely everyone, wow, Lucy, what an amazing once-in-a-lifetime experience. And that just, it screwed me over, That was once in a lifetime, then surely it's all downhill from here. I peaked too soon. Everyone's telling me that that's as good as it's going to get. It's like having the carpet taken from underneath your feet. I felt lost. I felt alone. I'd had no experience of feeling this low. Post-expedition depression is a real thing. I'm not talking holiday blues. I'm talking proper depression and low. I felt lost. I felt like I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have a path. I got very obsessed with long distance running. I was running a half marathon a few times a week. I was doing 10Ks twice a day. And along with that, I haven't really spoken about this much, let alone on camera, but I definitely, for quite a few years, not only became obsessed with running, but also got an eating disorder. I got very, very thin. I got very unhealthy. People were very worried. It got pretty bad. Some dark times, that's so to speak, but I just didn't know what I was doing. It was as if I'd tasted what it was like to be on top of the world, and then it was all stripped away from me, and I didn't know where I was going to go. It was a couple of years later that I was doing this talk at the Royal Geographical Society of the expedition I'd done, and it was here I met Neil Lawton. Neil is now a very good friend. He is an explorer, he's done the 7 summits, does lots of wacky, kind of eccentric expeditions. So he's done a lot of stuff, he's made adventure his life. And I approached him, how have you made adventure your life? And he agreed to meet me. And I must have made some sort of impression, because a few months later I get an email from him and he's inviting me on another expedition. An expedition to the Hardangervidda in Norway. We're reenacting, I don't know if you've seen the film Heroes of Telemark. It was me, along with I think 5 ex-Special Forces guys. They were all old enough to be my dad. But none of that mattered. I was back doing an expedition. I was back challenging myself. And it was here I really realised that if I wanted this bad enough, if I really wanted to keep doing these adventures, then I could make it happen for myself. I didn't know how. I was pretty clueless about that, but I just knew I had to get more skills. I had to keep fundraising. I had to meet more people who did this sort of thing, because it's not like I come from an explorer background. I come from Suffolk, for goodness sake. Suffolk is like the flattest place ever. There aren't hills there. It's not like I grew up in the mountains, but I knew I needed to get myself in front of more adventurers, do more adventures, and I just needed to build up my resume there. And so I did. I kept doing more Arctic things because that's where I felt more comfortable. I learned how to mountaineer, to climb, started doing jungle expeditions. It's been like that for the last 10 years. And it was only about 5 years ago that I actually said out loud to my parents and also friends that I wanted to be an adventurer. Now imagine hearing that, your kid wants to be an adventurer. I expected to be laughed out the house, but they didn't laugh at me. They said, okay, how are you going to do it? Break it down. What are the steps you're going to do to get there? And that's exactly how you should think about these things. Anything you want to do, you don't have to have the whole thing mapped out. You just got to start, and you got to think of the first thing that you're going to do to get closer to your goal. Then you're well on your way. It's in the last few years that I can definitely say, I am an adventurer. Don't know it all, have only scratched the surface of the things I want to do, but I do constant expeditions every year, team ones, solo ones, guiding expeditions, joining tribes for expeditions, and that's kind of where I'm at the moment. So that's my story, that's how I became an adventurer in a nutshell. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you subscribe. I'm new to this game, so it will really help. So I think it's down here, the subscribe button. Thank you very much for joining me. I upload a video every other Thursday at 2 p.m, so make sure you join us for the next one. I've got so much planned, can't wait to keep going, and see you then.